This is the shirt I got on the date but didn't wear to the date. This is how many fucks I give. And this is Just Paul. Last week we spun the wheel and it landed on audience choice, which I honestly love when that happens because I'm going to get to know exactly what you guys are loving watching on the show and what you want to see more of. And you guys picked Storytime, which is because the last ones are so much fun. And then I held a poll to ask you guys exactly what kind of story you wanted to hear. The show is so interactive. By a landslide, you guys wanted to hear the worst date I've ever been on. Now, I sort of predicted this one was going to win because it's slightly juicier and a little bit more personal than the other ones. But if it did win, I promised myself to throw out this huge disclaimer for this type of video today and forever. So I love super dramatic story times. They are some of my favorite videos that I personally watch here on YouTube because you get to hear crazy human stories and you learn so much about these YouTubers that you're watching all the time that you love so much. You learn about their history, about their personal life. It's just like little binoculars into your favorite YouTuber's world. But when it does come to exes or people being portrayed in the negative, I have actually seen in the past some YouTubers' fans trying to uncover or track down the anonymous subjects of the stories. I think Illymation put it best.
This tweet that Illymation sent out. Another thing that should really go without saying, stop snooping through my pictures and asking, is this your ex? I took all the photos down because I knew people would want to be vigilantes, which brings me to my next point. I do not advocate for doxing, harassment, intimidation, or violence. If you go out of your way to do this, you are not a good person. I do not condone this type of behavior. Doing this doesn't make you an advocate, it makes you no better than him. And most likely, you'll end up harassing the wrong effing person.
Not only that, but all the negative subjects in these stories, I most likely do not want to have any sort of future contact with, so if one of my viewers doxes or harasses or contacts in any way the people that I'm talking about, if they even end up finding them again, if they even get the right person, that means that they will have license to start shit with me, and these videos will immediately cease to exist or continue. Got it? Cool. Honestly, out of all the more relationshipy story times that I could tell, this one is a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more funny. Even though I was pissed at the time, I can sit back and laugh at it now. This had to have been in my early 20s, and one thing that you have to know about me, I guess I'm like a serial, long-term, serious relationship gal, which honestly, if you just listed out the things that I think would be most central to my personality and my persona and my character, I don't know how that happened. Like, I shouldn't be somebody who's in a long-term serious relationship. Not like I date a bunch. I actually more so just like being alone. So I don't know how I ended up in 2 long-term relationships in my entire decade of being in my 20s. This ex of mine, I guess I'll just call him my ex. My ex and I had been dating since college, and we were in I think at this point, a 3-year relationship. And he even moved up to my hometown of Pittsburgh where I was living. I had originally said, hey, listen, buddy, I'm going to be moving. And he goes, cool, I'll move with you. That probably wasn't the best idea. And I probably, should have convinced him more so to not do that. But I didn't. That whole relationship is a whole other story. You'd have to convince me in the comments to talk more about my first serious relationship ever. So if you want it, you must comment about it. I will not do that on my own volition, even though it's a really good teachable story. Anyway, so when he got to Pittsburgh, one thing that he really decided that he wanted to do was to go to one of our baseball games. Now, another thing about me, you're learning so much about me, is that it's hard for me to explain how little I give a shit about sports. Even in my hometown of Pittsburgh, where sports are really important, one of my most notable movies that I've been in is all about football and the Steelers and sports. I know so little and I care so little, you can't even imagine. When I went to Sundance for my movie, for that same movie, I went around to dozens and dozens of people networking and talking, and to explain my movie, I had to explain the very famous 40-year-old football play that had taken place to be the title of the movie. And when I came back home after Sundance and talked to my boss, who happens to be a partial owner of the Steelers, I explained what I thought what happened in the play, and he goes, Jessica, that's not what happened. You say a long sentence to me in Chinese, and a couple days later, I try to repeat that sentence back to somebody, and we see what happens. So when he told me that he really wanted to go with me to a baseball game, which I've never been to one of our Pirates games, I was like, I don't really want to do that. Find another friend, go with them. Like, I really don't care to do that. Because no, it's like a cultural experience of your city. Let's do this together. Let's go watch this baseball game. Absolutely sounded like the worst date already to me, and we didn't even start it yet. In order to convince me to go, he said one thing that made me actually look forward to the date, besides, like, you know, spending time with him, whatever. And he goes, but when you go to the game, you can have, like, the ballpark food. You can have a ballpark hot dog. I'm like, ballpark hot dog, huh? I never had a real ballpark hot dog. Well, okay. I agreed to go for this hot dog. So the day finally came. And I had been in my office for work. It was on a weekday, and I was literally in office clothes. I was in high heels. I remember that specifically. And probably a skirt set, because I always wore those. And I walked across the city. If you've been watching me for a little while, you know I don't drive anything. I don't drive cars. What else would you drive? I don't drive. But while I was still at my office that day, before I left for the day, I got a text from him that he wanted some apparel to wear to the game. Some kind of sports apparel. And I'm like, tough luck, we don't have any. He's like, could you pick some up somewhere? And I'm like, okay, so I have to get to your place so that we can go to this game in the evening. I have to travel to your place. But you want me to find some, like, shirts for us for this game? Some kind of clothing to represent the Pittsburgh Pirates? And he goes, yeah. And so I'm like, fine, I will try. I went to, I want to say 2 or 3 places in town trying to find both a male and a female kind of costume to wear to this game. And finally, I found this tank top, which I actually kind of like. I, again, don't know anything about sports, but it's cute. And I got him this kind of cheap, which this wasn't expensive either, like screen printed t-shirt, and it had something to do with this hand symbol that the Pirates were making at the time, whatever. I'm like, cool, I got these things. I travel all around downtown on foot looking for these shirts, cross bridges, ride the incline, walk another mile or somewhat through a neighborhood until I finally get to his place. And I see him on the porch, and then with him, I see this dude. We'll call him Carl. Now, Carl is this guy that was a very close friend of my ex, and I always hated him. Do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend who has this friend, and you can't stand them for who they are? Well, this guy was the biggest garbage person I ever met, in my own opinion. Even though I'm an advocate for marijuana now. Back then, this kid was the absolute worst representation, ruins it for everybody, of a stoner loser. I met him originally because he was old roommates back in college town with my ex. He had no personality, and he did just really generally shitty things when he actually did do anything at all. Like, one time, my ex got put in the drunk tank one time when I almost tried to break up with him because I didn't think our relationship was going anywhere, and he got really drunk one night and punched a cop. His one phone call went to roommate Carl to get money out of my ex's drawer. He was telling Carl where his money stash was to get it, come bail him out. Carl took the money, bought weed, and left my ex in the drunk tank. And even after that event, my ex forgave him pretty quickly, which I would not have done, and they continued to be BFFs for some reason. Carl's here. Carl's here on the porch. I see him, I'm like, hi Carl, what are you doing here? Because I had no idea that Carl was part of this equation. So then I learn that the way that we're going to get tickets for this game is that Carl was going to get them from work. Cool, thanks, Carl. No. Carl only had 2 tickets. And he wanted to go too. Wait, what? So wait a minute. We only have 2 tickets to this game. This game that I did not want to go to. What are we doing right now? And my ex said, we'll buy, a ticket at the gate when we get there. And I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't these tickets seated? Like they have seats in them? He goes, yeah, but we can move around if there's empty seats. And I'm just like, fine, whatever. And so I, pull out the shirts that I had just bought. And my ex looked at his, he goes, this one's kind of crappy. And I'm like, oh my god, just wear the shirt! Like, he was a graphic designer, so he didn't really like the design in it. I can't believe I was still on board at this point, to be honest. He also, in some short fashion, was kind of bitching that I was being late. Again, because of the shirts that I had to get. So we ran upstairs, changed into our fun apparel for the game, and we're on our way. Actually, the reason why I was still on board, because I had a responsibility for this night already. It was my job to take what I thought was just my ex, but now my ex and Carl, to the game, because I knew how to get there. I knew the city. They were both kind of new to the city. By the way, Carl moved up to the city as well from College Town because also his girlfriend was from Pittsburgh. Small world. I couldn't bail. We were already late, and I was supposed to be taking them to the stadium anyways. All I remember is walking across one of our most famous bridges in our city, in the downtown area, in my high heels, and just thinking, this is my life. Doing all this for a hot dog. Then finally, when we get to the gate, my ex tries to buy a ticket at the kiosk, and hey, you guys guessed it! There were no seats close by. I was like, you know what? You guys have fun. I'm gonna go home. So I immediately turned around and headed back the way I came, the way that we came. So I go down into the subway station. I'm all the while getting texts from my ex going, are you mad? I text my sister, who was downtown at her college, and I go, hey Katie, this happened to me. I am starving. Could you please come to dinner with me? So I took 2 train stops down to my sister's college. She came down in her comfy clothes. She was just in her dorm, and I was bothering her. And we had a bar food, greasy food, delicious dinner, chatted, bitched, and then I went home. And that's my story. Down in the comments, tell me what you thought about my story, and tell me about the worst date you've ever gone on. I would love to read those. And as for later this week, because I did have some other ideas for story times, I thought for the bonus video I might pick one of the other ones that you guys were, pulling on. So you're gonna have to subscribe to know which one I pick, and you'll see it in a couple days. Now it's time to spin the wheel! Last week, I told you guys that I had been toying around with the idea of replacing one of these categories. I actually thought of this new category almost immediately after I made this wheel. I'm like, oh man, we'll save it for a little bit down the line and really just ruminate over what we think about, the wheel so far. I think it's time to add a new thing to the wheel. And drum roll, please. The new thing is live! Yeah, I thought of a couple things that I could do live on YouTube. I will promote it heavily before it's going to happen, so a lot of you can be there at the time so that you can comment, you can interact. Like, that, as far as interactivity goes with my show, that will be very interactive. You guys will literally be part of the episode because I will then upload it to YouTube afterwards as its own video. But you guys, again, will be in the video, talking with me through the video for the different ideas that I have. As far as which thing I'm going to replace, another drum roll, please. Jess's choice! I was thinking, you know what, that one's pretty useless because really all of these things are my choice. I made this wheel, I'd be happy to do any of them. So having Jess's choice is kind of redundant, so I thought, yeah, let's add this to the wheel. There it is. So big and bold and bright. It's like a beacon. Okay, live is added to the wheel. Now we're gonna spin it for next week. Thank you guys for coming back to the show as always. Comment down below what your favorite category has been so far of the videos that we've done. If you've missed a lot of the videos, that's what the video page is for. Really? Okay. Obviously, I didn't mean to land on live already. We're going to do a live show next week. I hope I'm prepared for this. Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do a live show. It's a show where you're going to be able to, comment on the side, talk to me while I do something. I have a couple ideas, but some things I wanted to save for later, like when I move to LA. So, yeah. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure to sub so that you can see the next story time. If YouTube doesn't happen to be your favorite social media, I'm on the other ones too. You can follow me and learn more about me. God, I'm inviting people to learn so much more about me every single week. Have a great week, and bye!